sewing friends. So spring 2026 marks my 10 years of sewing. So I'm really excited about this. In some ways, I'm like, how has it already been 10 years? And then on the other hand, I'm like, how has it only been 10 years? I feel like I've been doing this forever, but also how has it been so long? So regardless of the mystery that is time, I sat down and thought about how I'd want to celebrate. And I did, there were gifts. There were gifts from me to me for my SEW-IVERSARY. But that's gonna come in a different video because I'm still waiting on a couple goodies to arrive, but I have been doing a little bit of fabric shopping. Yeah, so that's gonna be next time. But I thought it would also be really fun to take a look at how far I've come, what I've accomplished in my sewing journey, and I thought it'd be really fun to share 10 of my favorite makes of the last 10 years. So if I was just going to pick my top 10 things that I've ever made, they would probably all be from 2024 and 2025. They'd probably be my more like recent pool of things. And I didn't think that that would be quite fair to, you know, this like journey reflection to really honor where I've been and what I've learned. So instead, I decided to just pick one make to share with you from each of my 10 years that I've been sewing. So I've done a lot. I went through all my old photos, and for some years it was a really easy choice. For some years I was like cringing a little bit, and then for other years I had a really hard time choosing. So there might be some honorable mentions in here, but I've chosen 10. I've got 8 here that I physically still have. For the other 2, I'll just have to like put in a couple pictures. But yeah, I'm really excited to share one make from each of my 10 years of sewing. So I learned to sew in spring of 2016 in a costuming course. And I really did not expect sewing costumes to be as like intensive as it was. I had done costume design, I had run costumes in shows, I had interned with Portland Opera as part of their costuming department, I did mending, I did maintenance, and I was really thinking in this kind of more like overall, or this like kind of bird's eye view form of clothing, how clothing's role in shows as much more of like an artistic bit. And then I took a costume production course where the first day we learned how to use a sewing machine, and by I think week 3, we had to have a constructed garment on an actor on the stage ready to go for a show. And that was terrifying. I don't recommend learning to sew this way, but it did give me like a really big kick in the butt. It was like, fear of failure is not an option. You're just gonna go right into it. And all the while I was recovering from a concussion. So there were so many tears. It was so hard and so awful, that first part of this course. The second part of the course was much more freeform, much more relaxed. We didn't have that super tight deadline, and we got to make something for ourselves. And between like the artistic freedom of getting to do that, putting those new skills to use, and then that was really a way that I think really started to help my healing process from the sustained TBI that I had that year, where I felt so stuck in my body and in my brain. There was like a lot of depression that came with my concussion, and yeah, feeling so stuck. And then learning how to sew and seeing something go from like an idea and a vision to physically working it with my hands to a finished product. I don't think I'm being dramatic when I say like I think that really, really helped my healing, if not like saved me. So I am so thankful that I got my butt kicked in that costuming course, because I came out of it with like this whole new passion, this whole new way to relate to creativity, for this like method of healing that has continued through the last several years. And yeah, I'm so grateful. And I look back at the photos of the things that I made this year, and I am like equal parts cringing at some of like those first projects. And I'm like so proud because I really went after it. After the course, I bought my own sewing machine. I bought so many $5 a yard quilting fabrics from Joann, and I went to town. Like, I made so many things. Some of them I'm like, oh, that was so great, so brilliant. And some of the things I was like, oh yeah, I never pre-washed my fabric. I thought I didn't have to clip my curves, that was like not a rule that applied to me. Didn't know how to fit anything, but I just like went, yeah, I just went all in. And so I think that like, yeah, there was so much like constricted energy that then was like released, and I didn't have time, or I wasn't afraid of failure after like the stress that was learning to sew and having to do the costume part. Once the freedom came, like it just kept going. And now I look at my practice where I'm very much a perfectionist. I look at that, I like my beginning sewing time of where I was just like going for it. Yeah, like not always doing the right thing, but I do think there's like something really admirable about that, of how I just was like barreling through and not caring about little mistakes, or, you know, I definitely did cut corners. There was just this like drive and fire that I look back now and I'm like, oh, that was such a good time. So going through those photos, I did pick a favorite of 2016, and it is this Gertie fabric. I can't say I know the pattern anymore. It was probably like a Big Four mashup, because I was buying every like $1 sale Big Four pattern from Joann. So this is probably, I know there was like a Simplicity bodice that I liked. Didn't really fit me, but I didn't know that, so it's fine. It's just a simple bodice with like bust dart, waist dart in the back. And then it's got an inverted box pleat skirt. So I'm thinking this was probably like a pattern mashup that I did. And as you can see, I took the zipper out at some point, I think several years ago, honestly. This has been in my like refashion doom box for the last 10 years. It's moved with me twice, but I could never let it go. Probably because the fabric is so beautiful. Yeah, I don't think it got out of my mouth. This is a Gertie fabric back when she was doing her collabs with Joann for fabric production. And it's a cotton sateen. This was the first like real apparel fabric that I bought. Again, not in the like, yeah, $3.99 quilts selection. Yeah, and it is, bodice is self-lined. Again, did not clip the curves of the neckline, so very bulky right here, very bulky in the shoulders. And I did briefly try this dress on, and it definitely is not going to close, and I think that is why I took the zipper out of it several years ago. It did fit mostly when I made it at first, but yeah, and it's got some, like, I think this is a hole right here. Yeah, it needs some work for sure, and I don't think I'm going to try to refashion it into its like original dress, but probably into just something else entirely. I do have one other little scrap of this fabric, but yeah, I made this for my visit here to the Netherlands in 2016, and I wore it on a little trip to Antwerp, or Antwerp, and yeah, toured some of the really beautiful cathedrals there. I also went to my first fabric market wearing this lovely lemon dress, so that is a fun memory that this holds. So it definitely fits in my Me Made May 26 plans to go through that big box of things and decide if I'm really going to make a refashion happen or let it go. And I think this is one that I've got to save and need to do something fun with. So 2017 was vastly different than my sewing of 2016, where I was just like doing all the things. 2017, I was like busy being sick and pregnant and then moving over here. So I, yeah, was very, very sick the whole first part of the year. Then I was packing up to move. I moved at 6 months pregnant. My kid was born in October. So between being like violently ill most of my pregnancy to like changing body, not really knowing how fitting even works, and then like moving across the world, I didn't really do a lot of sewing, but I did make this dress that I will put in here. I don't have it anymore. This is a dress that I made like in the springtime while I was still stateside, and then wore it to a wedding over here, like the week that I moved. And I really liked this dress. It was probably like a quilting, it was lighter than a quilting cotton, but probably not suited for the pattern that I chose, which was like a new look pattern that I got at Walmart. And I think it might have been like new look for Walmart. I don't know, I'll try to find the number, but it was like lots of variations with like different skirt lengths with the pleats, but also like a romper version, different sleeves and sleeve lengths, which I did not know at the time. If you're gonna do a sleeveless bodice, it should really have its own separate pattern pieces. So you can see my sleeves are like, or not the sleeves, my arm side is like way out here. Also didn't really understand that I needed a full bust adjustment. So I was always mad that like I had so much extra fabric around here. You know, the things that you didn't know back then. Now I know. And I look at this dress and I'm like, not great, but I'm really proud that I made something that year and something that I wore and something that I liked. I do love the inverted box pleats. I think they might actually be the same ones as was on the Gertie dress. And a funny connection, the fabric, the blue and white, is one of the ones I bought here in Europe while I was wearing the Gertie dress the year before. So I got a lot further in 2018 with my makes than I did in the previous year. But a lot of my progress in sewing was actually like passive. I spent a lot of time when my baby was just born, spent a lot of time on YouTube. And from there, I really discovered, well, like indie sewing patterns for one, the YouTube sewing community, and I wasn't quite ready to actually, did I even have my machine yet? Maybe not. Yeah, I would have had that later in 2018. But so I was like more passively engaged by watching a lot of YouTube basically and learning more about pattern construction and fitting. And one of my like core memories from that time was watching a lot of Lisa Comfort on the Sew Over It YouTube channel. What she would do every month was bring in a couple of fabrics and then share what she was going to make with them, but then also pointing out why the fabric type that she was working with was going to work well for the specific features of the pattern that she chose. And I think that even now, fabric and pattern pairing is one of the hardest parts of sewing. I feel like it's something that no one can really just like teach you. You do have to do some like experimentation. It's something that is always going to be like, you kind of have to feel it out. But it was so helpful to hear her like criteria of what she was expecting. And then at the end of the month, she would come back and say like, yes, this is why this worked. This is where I had to pivot or do something different. And yeah, that really like influenced how I thought about fabrics and patterns. It also really helped me, sewing YouTube in general, figure out what kinds of basic adjustments I needed. And so this dress, it is a Sew Over It pattern, the Sew Over It Lea, and it was the first full bust adjustment I ever attempted, and it really opened up so many doors for me. I had written off basically anything with buttons my whole life because, not my whole life, you know, post-puberty, because this did not fit in any ready-to-wear. I was having trouble with sewing patterns. Yeah, I was like making the right size based on my full bust and then trying to take it in everywhere else, but that was not really working. And then I learned how to do a full bust adjustment, and it really like changed so much for me and really opened up like a whole world of styles. And I loved this one. I really love that it has like, it's like sleek and really cute and fitting. It's got like lots of twirls from the gored skirt, but it also kind of feels a bit vintage, but then not like costumey. So I really, really loved this dress. I want to say this was like maybe the third thing that I made that year after like not making anything for quite a long time. And looking at the construction cracks me up because I've got like in some places just no seam finishing, just like full on raw edge. Then in some places like couture level waist stay with like a satin ribbon, gorgeous finishing. And then I've got like the wrong color thread for some of it. I don't know. It just is like chaotic is what it is. It's very chaotic, but I loved this dress. I wore it so much. Less so now because it's a bit tight via the waist stay. I think if I took it out, it would actually fit me pretty well now. I don't know how much I'll wear it now because as you can see, it's like a big cat hair magnet. I bought this fabric before we had a white cat, and the texture is gorgeous. I really, really love this like raised Swiss dot. It has a little bit of stretch to it, but yeah, just everything sticks to it. So I probably wouldn't get a lot of wear out of it, even if I did alter the sizing a little bit. But even though it's not in my closet anymore, I still really love this dress for all of the learning that it represents. So at the end of 2018, we moved again, and where I had a bit more space to set up kind of my little sewing corner. So of course, with more space and my baby becoming less of a baby, more into toddler land, I had a bit more time, a little more freedom. And yeah, I went all in again with sewing. I set up my blog and my sewing Instagram. I started pattern testing. I started working with Minerva, and yeah, just kind of things like took off. Again, I had a lot more to choose from in picking a favorite for 2019 than the last couple of years. And the one that I picked is definitely my favorite of the year, but also possibly my biggest, well, not possibly, definitely my biggest disappointment as well, because the fabric just didn't hold up. And this was a fancy brand and not a cheap fabric. If I bought that fabric now and what happened to it, I would be like writing them a letter. It was the Lady McElroy Viscose Dobby, and it didn't last more than one season. It just like was coming apart. I did proper French seams on it this time, but it just snagged on everything. You couldn't like look at it without it coming apart. So even though my construction of it was thorough and well done, it was in the actual wearing of it that it fell apart. But it was a wearable studio Heidi dress, which is now a retired pattern, sadly, because that remains one of my favorite like kind of shift dress patterns. It had little just little baby pleats at the waist where a little tie was tucked in. Actually, I think waist pleats at the front and at the back, and then it tied in the front, I think. I added a ruffle hem because that was very much like the vibe at the time. I think it would still be like pretty, it wouldn't be like wildly non-trendy now, but it was definitely like the thing with like the Vampire's Wife, I think was really big around that time. I loved this. I felt like a sexy flamenco dancer, and it was definitely one of my favorite pieces, and it was so sad that it just like tore to shreds every time I would wear it. So that was a bummer, but I still really love that I made that dress. It was trickier to pick a absolute favorite for 2020 because I think like many of us that were sewing through the pandemic, we made a lot more things that year trying to make the best of a weird global situation where we were all inside anyway. So I have two makes that I really, really loved, and I love them for different reasons. So I have to give like an honorable mention to what is still one of my favorite pieces, especially in the wintertime, but I even keep it out through the other seasons as well. It's my Sheridan sweater. In the wintertime, I wear this at least once a week. It is absolutely my favorite sweatshirt. It has washed and worn so well over the last 6 years. Yeah, it's one of my definite favorites. It's a basic, but it feels a little bit more elevated. I still wear this all the time. So it definitely has to get a little mention, but the one that I ended up going with is this Buggy Wilder gown because I think it really shook me out of this very bad style rut that I had been in since I moved here, since I had had my baby, and I was really just sticking to like comfort items, wearing a lot of just like black and navy leggings. And when I looked back, I can really see how I was just trying to be invisible. Not just from being postpartum, but also from being in a new culture. And I already felt so othered from not knowing the language, from not having many friends here. I just felt like I stuck out like a sore thumb already. And so I really faded into kind of, yeah, either these like typical kind of like mom comfort clothes or going like stereotypical Dutch neutrals, wearing just a lot of like black and navy and beige, which is not my vibe at all. I don't really like neutrals. I didn't like them then either, but I was just trying to not stick out. And I didn't realize that that's what that was. But now looking back, I'm like, oh yeah, I just did not want to be seen. I already felt like I stuck out. I didn't want to stick out anymore. I didn't want to be expressive, even though if you'd asked me, I probably would have said that I did, but I couldn't like get there. There was definitely like some big disconnects happening. So the pandemic, being like isolated from that othering, I think kind of allowed me to start to embrace like those pieces of style that I had set aside. Started like helping me actually get back into more self-expression because I wasn't constantly comparing myself to other people. I wasn't feeling that like othering sensation, whether that was like actually happening or just like projection, you know, who's to say. And then I came across this fabric. A friend was doing a fabric destash and I just fell in love with it. And I didn't talk myself out of it in the way that like I had been like through the previous years of like, oh, well, is it wearable? Is it something like I'm actually going to make up? No, I got it in the mail and I immediately made up a Wilder gown in this like really silly bug print in this polyester crepe. Now, because it is a poly crepe, I really can only wear this like 2 weeks a year. So it doesn't get a ton of wear from me anymore, but I will say it really like kind of shocked my system back into like, oh yeah, I like silly things. I need a bit of whimsy. I don't want to wear beige anymore, ever again. And so yeah, the combination of this particular make in the context really helped me kind of come back to myself after postpartum culture shock combination. So for that reason, yeah, my make of 2020 has to go to this Wilder gown and all of its like little silly fun bugginess. I really loved looking back at 2021. This was such a banner year for me. I started off working with the Socialists. It was a wonderful blog, very strong community. I got to write a couple of pieces. So I was co-editing. I got to write my own pieces. I got to do interviews with makers like all over. That was super, super fun. I helped as part of the like kind of closing out process that happened as the blog closed its doors. How do you say that? It didn't shut down, like it's still available to read, but they have since like stepped back and made some really wonderful friends there. Made some really great friends IRL because of Instagram. Someone was moving to the Netherlands and they put out this like, hey, does anyone want to hang out? And a bunch of us were like, can we do that? Oh, we should do that. Ended up having a big party, and the one who threw the party is now like my best sewing friend. I was her maid of honor last year. So some of those friendships have like lasted, yeah, and really deepened since then. So super grateful for that. In the fall, I started working with Forget Me Not and started really ramping up my content creation. This was also when I started doing more stuff for the Minerva side, for the content creation for them as well, doing more video stuff, and all the while making lots of things for myself, doing my own sewing. So my favorite make of 2021, again, there were lots to choose from. That was a very good sewing year for me, but I had to go with this Helen's Closet Reynolds dress. This is actually a fabric that I got from that sewing party over the summer. We kind of did like a little de-stash party, and this was one that was in there. It's just a yellow linen, and I wear this dress. This is one of my favorite dresses, probably the one that is this true? One of my favorites, like top 5 that I look forward to bringing out every summer. It is one that is just like chill and easy to wear, and I always feel so like fun and sunny when I put this on. So this is my make of 2021, a linen Helen's Closet Reynolds dress. So 2022, very much like finding the flow of kind of the behind the scenes, the like work side of the sewing world, working at both a fabric company with like my Minerva video content, and then on the like pattern side of things with Forget Me Not. Also in 2021, I forgot to say, I started on here yapping at you guys, started my own YouTube channel. So yeah, 2022, very much like just kind of in that flow of things, really enjoying it, really enjoying like deepening the friendships that I made in the previous year. And so again, like lots of good stuff to choose from, but it was pretty like obvious looking through my my list, because I think 2022 was the first year that I made an actual like document of the things that I made, as well as I was going through the photos. There were some really good stuff in there, but it was like hands down favorite make was definitely this Pattern Scout Hana tank. So this color is like everywhere now. I think in the last like year and a half, 2 years, this color has, yeah, shown up everywhere. But in 2022, this was a find, and I absolutely fell in love with this color. This is a enzyme washed linen that I got from Minerva. And it has these really beautiful shell buttons. It's got the tie front. Yeah, this is one of my favorite pieces. I was really bummed for a couple years there. It was a bit too big for me, so I went to pull it out in the summertime, and it like was looking a little bit like baggy, frumpy. I don't have that problem moving into this summer. It fits me perfect. So I am pretty excited to be wearing this again soon. Yeah, definitely one of my favorite summer pieces, and easily my overall favorite of 2022. So 2023 was a big year of like personal growth. And when I look back at the things that I made that year, I definitely still like feel the conversation that I was having with myself through that time. So 2023 was when I really like buckled down and decided I needed to get some help for my ADHD. I was diagnosed as a kid, but through lots of like phases, I didn't really feel like it was a problem anymore, or that I was really able to like glean the good stuff from it, you know, all of this wonderful creativity. And I wasn't really being like bogged down by the not so great stuff until like 2022, 2023, where I really realized via sewing how problematic my like inner monologue was, particularly around like getting stuck in the procrastination, perfectionism cycle, and how those are like really related to each other. So I started seeing a counselor. I tried some different medications, and my making really became kind of like a practice stage for working through my very like negative, self-detrimental perfectionism. So every time I like looking back on those makes, not necessarily individually, but like on a whole, I really like, it's kind of visceral. And on the one hand, I'm like, oh, that was so tough. But on the other hand, I'm like also really proud of myself that I identified something that was like hurting me and made a good change. So definitely like that was a bit emotional looking through those, but when picking my favorite make from the year, it was again pretty easy. Similarly to 2022, it's hands down, it's got to be this Patina blouse. It's in a viscose twill. When I was making it, I was a little bit worried with my like button choice that it was gonna read very like 90s mom in a bad way. And then I put it on and basically just like never took it off. It does read 90s mom, but in a great way, I think. I really, really love this. I love the color. I love how it feels on the body. It does need a little bit of attention. Some of the stitches are coming apart here. I think I'd like to put a button through here. It does get a little bit gapey. Right now I just have it, I have it wonder taped, but it could use with like an actual alteration to fix that there. So it needs a little maintenance, needs a little TLC, but I still very much love this Patina blouse. So in 2024, I started my yearly tradition of, in December, doing a fake awards show, reviewing the things that I've made in the year. And I make up little categories, again, with like fake awards. Sometimes it's, yes, there is one for a favorite make, but there's also like biggest flop, best refashion, the one I learned the most from. And I have so much fun making those videos. But I have to say, I think I made a mistake in my 2024 judgment, my evaluation of my favorite make of the year. I gave it to this strappy Reynolds dress that I hacked, to have like little spaghetti straps. It's got like a nice double situation going on. I love the print. It's super, super cute. Really love that dress, don't get me wrong. But I awarded the runner-up to this blouse, and I think I was wrong. I'm changing my mind. It's a year and a half later, and I wear this Helmi blouse all the time. Like, probably 2 or 3 times a month. It's not quite once a week, but like almost. I layer this up in the winter time. I love to wear it like on its own. I like it tucked into a skirt. I like it paired just like with jeans. It's so cute. I love the color. Feels like very earthy and grounded, and that really balances out this very like kind of frilly, girly, like whimsical, playful print, I think. And it's got like the cute puff sleeves. It has the fun Peter Pan collar. I love this blouse so much. I'm really excited. I've got over here my another Liberty cotton lawn that's going to be very similar. I'm going to add like a few more fun little details, but I love this blouse so much. So I take back what I said and definitely name this my favorite make of 2024. So that brings us to 2025, my favorite make of last year. Now this one I am keeping consistent with what I named in the Brie Michelle Makes Awards, and that was for this Helen's Closet Lockhart dress, where I added a sheared little panel back here, so it just like slips on over my head. It's so comfortable because of that sheared back. It's so fun with this tablecloth medieval lemon knights print. I don't even know what this print is. It just like, it spoke to me so hard. It was not cheap, but I'm so pleased with how it turned out. I went really, really slow. I really took my time. I like made a toile. I did a special like lining. I did a whole video on it, but it really goes to show how I really took my time from start to finish. I had a very clear vision and I made it happen, and I'm really proud of it. I also think it is so fun. It definitely like, again, it's just so silly. And yeah, when I was talking about where I was stylistically with like self-expression and what I was wearing, you know, in 2020, just navy and beige and gray, so much gray. I wore so much gray and I hated it. But I like couldn't make the change at the time, or at least on my own. And now like recognizing that this as one of my favorite pieces is just like so clear to me that yeah, I just like really wasn't doing well. And this is what I love. And I love the silliness. I love the fruits. I love this guy battling a griffin on a horse. Yeah, just fun. So silly, so comfortable. I really think that I nailed with this project like something creative and expressive and beautiful, while also like honoring my body's needs and like how my body changes throughout the day, throughout the season. Really worked on fitting it. It represents a lot of skills, a lot of time. So this one, again, no question, favorite make of 2025. So I never would have thought 10 years ago, when I was just taking a costume elective to check something off, that learning to sew would really like end up kind of steering a big part of where I ended up, and it's to become such a big part of my life that it is now my job. I never would have thought that I would have a freelance sewing business. I never thought I would end up in the Netherlands. That like wasn't on my, not on my bingo card, I guess you could say. Never thought that like my core group of friends would be people I met through sewing. Yeah, it's just like so many surprises. I think the one thing that like I could have imagined was being on YouTube, because again, it was like a theater degree. So that part, that's probably like the only piece that I would have been like, oh yeah, that makes sense. In 10 years, I could be on YouTube. But other than that, like craziness. But it was really fun to look back on 10 years of sewing and look at how much I've grown, the parts that were really, really hard, especially at the beginning, the parts where sewing really provided me like a way to work through some tough things, like emotionally, physically. And yeah, I'm just so grateful that I ended up in that class and that I ended up finding such a wonderful community, like first via Instagram and the Socialists and Minerva, and now here on YouTube with you guys. Like it really does blow my mind, like how how amazing and how surprising this journey has been. So it was really fun. and yeah, again, quite emotional to look back on all of those makes, all those years of sewing, and to think about how I've gotten here. So to me, it's definitely worth celebrating. So this was kind of my like part 1 video. And then, like I said at the beginning, I did get myself some goodies to celebrate. So I will be back with a SEW-IVERSARY part 2 where I share what I'm getting up to making and what I have got for myself, because I've got some really pretty fabrics as well as a couple of tools and patterns that I decided to invest in. So I had been like slowing down on buying things, but I'm like 10-year anniversary, like gotta celebrate. So that will be next time. And yeah, in the meantime, of course, you can let me know what you are up to, because I'm always very nosy. I love to know what you are getting up to, either in sewing or like in other creative practices. Yeah, and I would love to know like in what ways sewing has impacted you, because I obviously droned on long enough about how instrumental it has been and what a great opportunity and how grateful I am that it's in my life. But I'd love to hear from you guys if you have some crazy sewing stories. Definitely like drop them either in the comments below. You can message me on Instagram. I'll also be getting, hopefully this week, onto Threadloop. I've been lurking over there a little bit, but I will drop my like profile link below. You can't direct message, but like we can still chat over there. So if you're there, definitely let me know and I will be sure to connect there as well. So that's all for me. This video is probably going to be like a million years long. So I'm going to stop talking and let you get back to whatever you're doing. I hope whatever you're up to, wherever you are, you're having a wonderful time, and I'll see you very soon.